I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm here with some Nanny Romance Recs. This is going to be the start of a new series that I'm doing on my channel, which I've been wanting to do for forever, and I've just been like putting it off or not making the videos, but it is where I'm going to be recommending books based off of tropes. So I recently started sharing like Trope Tuesday recommendations on Instagram, where I put together romance recs based off of certain tropes, which has been super fun to do, but I also wanted to incorporate it on a video side as well, where I share them and chat about them a little bit more. So since I do read so many books every year, this is just a fun way to share kind of based off of tropes. So like, which I totally get that way. I want to read like specific tropes sometimes, or like I read a book, love the tropes, and like I want to find more like that. So this would be the perfect way to share some of these. So I recently realized that I love nanny romances, and I feel like it's because they pair perfectly with one of my other favorite tropes, which is the single dad hero. So I found that they go hand in hand a lot of the time. And so yeah, without further ado, we'll jump into the 16 nanny romance recs that I have for you today. First up is Make You Mine by Laura Pavlov. This is part of her Honey Mountain series. These can all be read though as standalones, though they do all exist in the same small town world. All the heroines in the series are sisters. So this one, like I mentioned, it's a small town. It has age gap as well. The hero is 10 years older than the heroine, and he is a single dad. He's a firefighter, and he has 2 young daughters that the heroine becomes the nanny for. So in this one, the hero and the heroine, they already know one another because he actually is a firefighter and he works at the firehouse where her father is like the firehouse chief. So they do have that kind of in common as well. This one was actually my favorite in the series. It's a lot of fun. I loved seeing the heroine. She actually wants to write romance books as well on the side, and she has been like feeling uninspired, but now that she's around the hot boss, she is feeling all the things and having like all the inspiration for her books. This one as well, we get some sick or caretaking scenes in here with the heroine having to look after the 2 young girls who get sick, and then she ends up getting sick from them, and the hero has to come and take care of her, which I'm always here for some sick caretaking scenes. This one was just a lot of fun, very low angst, and I had a great time with it. So next up is Wild About You by Rebecca Jinchak. This is part of her Wildcat hockey series. So in this one, the hero is a rookie hockey player, and he's like having the best time. His career is going so well. And then one day his life kind of gets turned upside down when his teenage sister shows up at his front door and is like, hey, I want to live with you now. Like, also I'm quitting high school. And so he ends up becoming the guardian of his sister. So his sister as well, she's like 17, about to turn 18. And so he's like, you know what, you need to get back into high school. So he puts her into the school nearest him. And so the heroine is actually his sister's teacher. And when he sees her, he realizes that they know one another. They actually dated in the past. They were high school sweethearts. They had like a long distance relationship in the past. And then he always has thought of her as like the one who got away. So he uses this as kind of a second chance with her, as well as she starts helping him out with his sister and looking after her. I loved this one. This was actually my favorite in the series. I loved how devoted the hero was to the heroine. He like never looked or thought of anybody else in the years that they were apart. And it was just so fun seeing them. Like I mentioned, she's not technically the nanny, but she does have to like look after and stay with his sister while he's busy and away with hockey. This one was just a fun time to see the heroine's relationship with the hero's sister. It's very low angst, and if you love a second chance with hockey as well, definitely check this one out. Next up is Yours to Hold by Emily Silver. This is part of her Dixon Creek Ranch series. This is a small town series. It's set in Idaho, a very low angst, and I just had a great time with this one. So this one has a ton of other fun tropes in it as well, besides just the nanny romance. So in this one, we get age gap. The hero is 10 years older than the heroine. We of course have the single dad hero. We get best friend's brother, grumpy sunshine, and then of course a small town as well. So in this one, the hero is a single dad to his daughter, and then the heroine is his sister's best friend. The hero is one of those characters who always takes on everything for the rest of his family. He's always helping out. He's like the oldest sibling, and so he never like has time to ask for help for himself. And so he's kind of like overrun and needing help with his daughter for the summer, and so the heroine steps in and offers up to help him. In this one, the heroine has always crushed on the hero because, like I mentioned, he is her best friend's older brother. And then we find out that while the hero has kind of tried to stay away from her all these years, he's kind of been feeling her as well. It starts off as a summer fling to just kind of like get it out of their system. Of course, turns into more. The heroine is supposed to leave at the end of the summer to take off and move away for an art gallery job that she got. But of course, you know, the story kind of goes from there. This one is a lot of fun, especially if you love that kind of feel good, small town charm, all those like small town population shenanigans, like all of that going on as well. It's just a fun time with, of course, steam as well. So next up is Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson, and I love this one so much. This one is a small town as well. It also has a tortured, broken hero, and in this one, the hero actually becomes the legal guardian of his niece, who he is now like the parent of. The heroine is hired on to kind of teach his niece how to ride and take care of horses, but eventually leads into her becoming the nanny for his niece as well. This one I absolutely loved from the very beginning. I love the heroine. Her and the hero actually meet in the beginning of the story. They get into like a fender bender. They don't hit it off right. They don't know who one another is at the time, and then she takes off to go to her new job position, and when she gets there at the ranch, she realizes it is the hero. I love the relationship that the heroine has with the hero's niece in this one. The niece is like super shy and quiet and kind of keeps to herself, and the longer she's with the heroine, the more she like opens up and you see her little personality blooming, which was so much fun. The hero in this, like I mentioned, he's a tortured, broken hero. He doesn't think he's capable of love or being able to take care of somebody or show love to his niece, and so it was fun having the heroine kind of prove to him that he is capable of all of these things. This one has a romantic suspense element in it as well that was just so well done, and I love this book so much. Then we have Forbidden Hearts by Karina Michaels. I love this one. It's the first book in a new series from her. So this one we also have Small Town. We have age gap. The hero is 14 years older than the heroine, and then we have Grumpy Sunshine set up as well. So in this one, the hero is a sheriff for his small town, and he actually has a great co-parent relationship with his ex, which I loved to see that, by the way. And now his ex is actually going overseas for work for the summer, and so he's going to need some extra help with taking care of their daughter. So he has a nanny all lined up, but at the last minute, she actually pulls out and is no longer available. And so he's kind of panicking, needing help last minute. But then his boss, who works with him at the police station, is like, well, hey, my daughter that you know is like back in town from college. She speaks ASL because his daughter is actually deaf. And so he's needing somebody who can communicate with her. And he's like, she would be perfect for the job. And so he ends up hiring the heroine. So this one was really fun because it had a lot of forced proximity as well, because the hero asks the heroine to move in with him and his daughter while she's taking care of her. Loved how the heroine just like instantly becomes a part of their life. She instantly connects with the hero's daughter, very quickly comes to care for her and protects her. And the heroine have feelings for one another, but they kind of dance around it at first. And like not only the fact that she is his nanny, but also like their age gap. He's 14 years older. And then of course she is his boss's daughter as well. But of course they do eventually give in, and I just loved seeing their sweet relationship together. The hero is like so protective over his daughter, over the heroine, and I just love to see it. Next up is Professor Astor by Katerina Mora. This is part of her Off Limits series, which is a series that pretty much all of the relationships are forbidden or off limits. So this one has a fun setup because the hero and the heroine, they share a one-night stand in the past, and then years go by, and then they end up meeting again, where she is now his PhD student and he is a professor, and then also she becomes the nanny of his kids. Love seeing the time in the past with this one where they had that one night stand and that strong connection that they have. They both leave like kind of wanting more, but then the hero actually gives her the wrong number, and so they have no way of communicating until 2 years later when she shows up. I love seeing the heroine's close connection with the hero's children. She actually has some complications with cancer in her past, and so she's not sure if she's going to be able to ever have children of her own. So it's just really sweet seeing her relationship with his kids. The heroine is Indian as well, and so I loved seeing the way that her family is incorporated in the story and just all of those dynamics and her culture as well. It just added a lot of depth to her character, as well as created some more barriers between her and the hero having a relationship. And yeah, this one was just a lot of fun. Next up is Runaway Love by Melanie Harlow. This is the first book in a new small town series from her, which I always have a good time with her books. So this one, it actually starts off on the heroine's wedding day, and she ends up getting a sext from her husband-to-be, which should be all fun and games, but when she's reading the text, she realizes that he sent it to the wrong person and that he's been having an affair on her this entire time. So yeah, her wedding gets called off and she ends up fleeing in her wedding dress, ends up at a diner, and when she's there, she sees a poster on the wall, needed help like becoming a nanny for the hero's children. So this was just low angst, a great start to a new series. It also has some Grumpy Sunshine vibes. The hero in this one, he kind of had to put his own life aspirations on the side when he decided to help out his father with the family's business of like carpentry. So he has always been one to put others first instead of himself. So the hero and the heroine have a connection kind of right from the start, but she is there to look after his twins. And so there is a week though where the twins end up leaving. And so it's the hero and the heroine alone at the house. And so they kind of give in during that time. And of course, it goes from there. This one does as well have a third act breakup in it. But if you love groveling, this has some great groveling at the end from the hero. Next up is The Secret by Lulu Moore. This is the first book in her Tuesday Club series. This one, the hero is a billionaire. And one day he realizes that he's a father by finding his newborn daughter at his doorstep. So this one is a lot of fun because the hero and his friends actually created the Tuesday Club, and so it's kind of like their little hangout club that they all spend time together. And so it's during one of these weekly hangouts when they all find the baby at the doorstep, and so they all jump in immediately and want to help take care of this baby together. This one, I just loved how the hero was all in to being a single dad to his new daughter. He realizes that he needs help right away, so he calls in all the reinforcements. His sisters, his parents, his friends, of course, are there to help him as well. And so his sisters actually recommend him hiring a nanny, and that's where the heroine comes in. She works for the nanny service and comes to take care of his new daughter for him. This is another one that's pretty low angst. The hero and the heroine realize they have feelings for one another right from the start, but they try to like push those feelings aside just because they're working and living together. The hero in this one in particular, he was the one who was all in for the relationship from the start, where the heroine is the one who is more wary, so I liked seeing that. This one too, I just loved how supportive the hero's family and friends are, and how they all just kind of like come together to help him when he's become this new father. Next up is Last on the List by Amy Dawes, and while I'm not always a rom-com girly, this one was just a lot of fun. So in this one, the hero is a millionaire and he co-parents his daughter with his ex, which again, I love seeing a healthy co-parent relationship with exes. So in this one, the hero has his daughter for the summer and he realizes that he's going to need a little bit more help. So he ends up hiring a nanny because he's going through this like possible merger with his company. And so he's like super busy. So he ends up reaching out to a nanny service who sends over the heroine, and they don't get off to the right start. Like first off, she is a little bit late to the meeting. She also shows up in a tie-dye sweatsuit outfit. And then her plan with his daughter for the summer is just to do nothing and kind of wing it. And so he's like, no, thank you. But he had let his daughter ahead of time have a say in who they hire as her nanny. So when his daughter hears this like do nothing plan, she's like, yes, please. Like, I want her to be my nanny. Heroine ends up moving into the guest house on their property, and so there's a ton of that like forced close proximity. I also love seeing the heroine's relationship with the hero's daughter. It was so sweet and cute, and like all of the joy that she brings to the hero's daughter's life was so much fun. The heroine is also a curvy heroine who loves and embraces her body, and then the hero also definitely appreciates her curves as well. This one was just a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, I'm not usually into rom-com, but this one really worked for me, and it also brought a lot of like depth to the character and emotions as well. Next up is Rafe by Rebecca Witherspoon, and this is the only one on my list that I have where the hero is actually the nanny. So in this one, the heroine is a doctor who recently went through a pretty nasty divorce, and then she also ended up moving. And her recent nanny actually ended up bailing on them, so she needs somebody to look after her twins, and so she ends up hiring the hero. This one, the hero and the heroine have a mutual attraction, and I loved how pretty early on into the story, they both tell one another their feelings, and they're just like open and honest about how they're going to work with that moving forward. Just loved seeing the hero in this one taking care of the heroine's daughters and like doing their hair and all these cute things. Like I read this one a couple years ago and I still think about it. Next up is Fresh Meat by Jasmine Miller, and this one has a sports romance angle to it as well. This one was a lot of fun because the hero is an Olympic swimmer, which I don't think I've read any other romances where the athlete is a swimmer, so that was fun to see. The hero in this one, he's a single father to his son, and so he ends up hiring the heroine to be the nanny for him, and then the hero, like he's instantly attracted to the heroine, but kind of tries to keep his distance just for the fact that she is the nanny to his son. So they kind of deal with that going on, but otherwise it's really low angst and just a sweet fun time. Next up, I have a historical romance rec. So I have Rules for a Proper Governess by Jennifer Ashley. This is part of her Mackenzie's and McBride's series, which I absolutely adore. So in this one, the heroine is actually a pickpocket and a thief, and she enters the hero's life by stealing his pocket watch and then a kiss from him. I immediately thought the heroine was just such a fun character right from the start. It was fun seeing her paired up with the hero. He's a lawyer, he's a widower, and he's a single father. So after she steals from him at the beginning of the story and even like kisses him, they end up going their separate ways, and then they meet up a couple weeks later when she ends up saving his children. When the hero shows up to find his children and he sees that they're actually behaving and listening to the heroine, he's like, I need you to be their governess, like immediately. This one was just a lot of fun. I love the children's antics in here and seeing how the heroine kind of instantly connects and bonds with them. There's also like a great steamy scene in here with a train ride to Scotland. Like just such a fun time. I definitely recommend this whole series, but this one in particular is one of my faves. Next up is His Human Nanny by Michelle Mills, and this one is a sci-fi monster romance rec. So in this one, the hero is the monster and his newborns end up being dropped off at his doorstep, and that's how he kind of realizes that he even has children, is when they show up. So the hero realizes that he needs to hire a nanny fast, and so he ends up reaching out and trying to hire a human nanny because like humans are supposedly the best at taking care of children and they're like super trendy right now, so he wants to make sure he hires a human nanny. In this one, the heroine is a human. She's been taking care of elderly patients like across different planets, and so this is her first nanny gig that she gets, but she ends up accepting. So she ends up showing up at this new planet to help out the hero. He's a billionaire hero and he can't keep his eyes off of her. This one was super sweet. It's also novella length, so it's like 150 pages or less. The heroine is plus size. I absolutely love the covers. They're so much fun. The series is on KU. More like sci-fi alien monster romance, but yeah, just like a fun time. Next up is Eleanor Gray by Brittany C. Cherry, and this is one of my all-time favorite romances, so I feel like I definitely couldn't have done this trope recommendation video without talking about this book. So in this one, we see the hero and the heroine, they meet as teens and they kind of knew one another in the past, and then they end up getting separated because of course, things that happen in their lives. This one, of course, Brittany C. Cherry, she brings the emotions, so just be ready for it. But yeah, they don't end up meeting up again until years and years later, where the hero is now a widower and he has his 2 daughters to take care of. The heroine ends up getting hired on as the nanny for the hero, for his children, and he is like a totally different man than the guy that she knew all those years ago. He's very closed off and broody, and like he doesn't smile or seem to have any fun in life, and so she wants to kind of bring him out of that shell. She gets connected to his daughters. Like, it is just so good, so emotional. Love this one so much. Next up is A Nordic King by Karina Halley, and this is part of her Nordic Royals series. So in this one, the hero is the King of Denmark, and he's also a widower who has 2 children to look after. And so the heroine ends up becoming the nanny for them. This one was just so good. I loved it so much. I read this one years and years ago, still think about it. The heroine in this one is Australian, and then she moves to Europe to look after the hero's children. The hero is just like this moody, broody king. Like, I loved it. I don't usually go for royal romances, but this one worked so well, and definitely an all-time favorite. And then lastly, I have Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. This is the first book in her Cloverleaf Farms series. I love this entire series so much. A classic small town romance series. So in this one, the hero is the CFO for the Cloverleaf Farms, which is actually the farm that the heroine's family runs and owns. So it also has like boss's daughter going on. The hero is also a single dad to his 3 daughters, and so the heroine ends up becoming the nanny for them. This has an age gap as well. Such a fun time, so good. So those are all the nanny romance recs I have for you today. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or if you have any nanny romances to recommend me. I'd love to know. Hopefully you enjoyed this sweet and short trope recommendation video. If you have another trope you want me to do, leave it in the comments so I can do a video for that one as well. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.